Hello and welcome back. Thanks again for watching, guys. I am doing a video on sunscreens today. Why are these wet? I don't know. If you could not tell from the title, I'm talking all about Peter Thomas Roth and the variety of sunscreens that they offer. I was just on their website, and typically I buy a lot of my products through Sephora, either because I can just go pick it up or I don't know, I have 2-day shipping from them. But I wanted to check out their website to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, because these are the 3 products that you see on Sephora. And they do have another, it's basically like their tinted version, and I believe that it's maybe the old version, that it doesn't look like it's discontinued, it's still available. But I think this is probably replacing it. So I will post that picture here. I don't have it. I'm not going to go out and buy it just because it seems like this, like I said, might be replacing it. So I'm not covering everything. And there is also one other that I will link here, or not link, I will show here, which is not available. So I believe that's also not being continued. So that's kind of the breakdown of it. Before we get going, definitely make sure you like this video, subscribe below, join the family. And our fun Dana fact of the day, I'm running out of facts, so I might need to change this up. We might need to do something else. But the fun Dana fact of today is that I have my bachelor's in archaeology and anthropology. I think I mentioned that before, but I have my master's in educational policy. So I don't do anything with archaeology or anthropology, but I do work in education, and I have been in higher ed for almost 10 years now. So I am putting the educational policy master's to use. And I got my degree from CU Boulder out in Colorado. So yeah, that's a little fun fact for you guys. Let's get going. Okay. What do we always do before we start? We put our hair up. So hair goes up. I was thinking of doing a side-by-side comparison, but since I have 3, that doesn't really work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of do like one here, and one here. Then we get all 3, and I will talk through them as I go. So first up, I have the water drench. This is, oh, I just realized that my lid is broken. Can you see that crack? So the smaller version retails for $22, while the larger version, which is 50 milliliters or 1.7 ounces, retails for $52. But I do love that they have this sample or like smaller size, and obviously I picked that up. So this is a chemical sunscreen, and the filters in it are 3% avobenzone, 5% homosalate, 5% octosalate, and 10% octocrylene. So as you can tell, it goes on beautifully, like just so easily, and I will cover that in a second. But I just wanted to stop for a second and show you how easily it goes on. There is pretty much no scent to it. It smells honestly more like just a moisturizer, like skincare. So if you are sensitive to added fragrance, don't worry about that. And this one, not there. Okay, so now we get into the ingredients. Peter Thomas Roth, I have been like scouring their website, looking through the ingredient list, and I am super impressed by their ingredient list for all 3 of these. I'll just tell you that right off the bat. So in this one, they say that there's a 30% hyaluronic acid complex, which is really cool. A hyaluronic acid complex basically means that, of course, there's not going to be 30% hyaluronic acid. That would result in a gel, a hard gel. It just wouldn't happen. But it's going to be hyaluronic acid plus other basically proprietary ingredients that combine to make this a long-term hydrating product. They also have pentavitin, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. This is a proprietary ingredient, and I believe that it does do that, because when I wear this sunscreen, I do feel like it's like the one time that I feel like sunscreen is acting as skincare. So those are kind of the big claims. Otherwise, just looking at the list as a skincare formulator, there are so many really great ingredients, especially when I get to some of the others. These 2 in particular, and I will talk about this one more, are really focused on hydration. So if that's something that you tend to feel like your SPF kind of drains your skin of moisture, these are 2 really good options for that. So as far as the finish, you can see it's been on just the few minutes that I've been talking. It does have like a little bit more of a radiant finish, but it's nothing super glowy, and that does dry down and kind of set. It honestly acts like kind of like a moisturizer, so I would give it that kind of overall finish. And then as for cast, you see that there was none going on, just invisible. This is one of the times where they could actually say invisible and it would be true. And then how would I wear this? This is basically, I would wear this in almost any situation. I would wear it under makeup, of course. I would wear it on its own. I would wear it to work out. I would wear it in so many ways. This would be basically my go-to sunscreen if I only had like one or two. I have many more. That said, I think some of these, and I will mention it when I get to this one, they could be a little bit too heavy if you do have oilier skin. So that is something to consider. Also, I would say if you have oilier skin, this would be a really good one in the winter time because it is just focused on hydration. But in the summer, you might need something a little bit more matte. But for those of you with dry skin, I think this would work really well. I would say if you do have super dry skin, you could even layer this on top of a moisturizer. If you have more like dry/normal, you could just use this alone and skip the moisturizer and you would be fine. So all this talk, what would I rate it? I would say a solid 9 out of 10. It's really become a favorite very, very quickly for me. Not quickly, I've had it for a while. Okay, let's stick with the bottom half of my face and we will do another chemical sunscreen. This is the Max Matte. Man, that's hard to say. It is $34 and it comes in 1.7 fluid ounces or 50 milliliters. And there is no travel or smaller size that I have found. So this is your only version. I'm not doing the 2 finger lengths, obviously, just because I am doing portions of my face. So the filters in this one are 3% avobenzone, 9% homosalate, 5% octisalate, and 10% octocrylene. The scent is actually, it's interesting. I feel like it could be possibly like a citrusy scent. I haven't really nailed the scent, but there's something, I think it's just a very, very light citrus, but not terrible. If you do have sensitivities, citrus can be kind of problematic, but I wouldn't say that this is strong at all. Like you really have to kind of like go out of your way to find it. But if it is and you try it and it doesn't agree with your skin, just know that most places have a pretty lenient return policy, especially when it comes to something like a scent and irritating your skin. So this one really impressed me in terms of ingredients. They have, on the website, it says oil absorbing technology. And I was looking through the ingredients and I can't find like just one particular ingredient that on its own will do that. And I think that's fair. I mean, most ingredient lists don't work like that. It's not like just one ingredient that makes the whole product. So it's a combination of a few different things. But the ingredient list is super sophisticated. I really think a lot of these ingredients they're doing double duty in there. So first off, I guess we should talk about the finish. As you can see, and the name suggests, this is a matte sunscreen. And I would say that it's pretty matte for sure. But the interesting thing, the other part of their ingredient list, the ingredient call out, is that they say it has hyaluronic acid and Pro Hyala Plus, which again, probably a proprietary blend. But that's really interesting in a very specifically matte product, because oftentimes when you see matte, you think drying, and products that I have that are matte do tend to do that to your skin. And it's kind of like, okay, I do want a matte product, but I don't necessarily want it to like soak all the moisture out of my skin. So what they've done with this ingredient list, again, really spectacular ingredient list, what they've done is they've given you the matte finish for oilier skin types, but they've actually given you moisture inside of the product, which is really cool. So you're going to be getting a matte finish, but you're also still getting the moisture that your skin still needs. So the finish, as we can see, is pretty matte. I wouldn't say it's like the most matte thing I've ever tried, but it does live up to the claim. And if you just cannot use a very oily, very rich sunscreen, this is going to be a good option for you. So the cast is a little tricky. My problem is if you do the TikTok method where you do like 2 or 3 finger lengths worth and then just go like that, you're gonna have a cast and it's gonna be really hard to blend in. And I was not expecting that from this kind of chemical sunscreen, but I think that is the case just because they are giving you that matte finish. So the way that I applied this, if you do it in like very small dots, rub it in, like don't even do the 3 finger lengths, just do this amount and then blend it in, and then you layer, just like I always say. But it will give you a cast if you do too much. That is kind of the one downside of this one. And as you can see, when I layered it, it does start to get a little kind of like, I wouldn't say it pills, but it doesn't sit as beautifully on itself as I would like. So this one you just have to be very careful when you're applying. Do small thin layers and then make sure that you rub it in pretty quickly before it dries. Yeah, this one, I wish that the application was a little bit better, because I think that's the one downside. And it's not that you get a cast, it's just that the sunscreen, it doesn't always blend in. So like that whiteness will still be there, but it's not necessarily a cast. It's just that it's hard to blend in if you're doing too much of it, which is frustrating, because my whole thing is you want to make sure a sunscreen, people want to apply more of it, because oftentimes we don't apply enough. So that's definitely the biggest downside of this. And I should show you, so when I went back in on the second layer, that's when you start getting pilling. So I know I'm talking about this subject a lot for this one, but it's the most important part of it. You want to go in with one layer, and if you apply more than one layer, it's probably not going to work. So as you do it, do very small areas, blend out. And so it is a little bit trickier. There's just a lot more to focus on, but otherwise you will get a bit more pilling like what I have here. So how would I wear this? This one is tricky just because I spent so much time on kind of the cast and the application. It's one of those ones where if you can manage to get it so that there's no kind of like, pilling's not the right word, but kind of is, I guess. If you can get a very smooth layer and application, this would be beautiful under makeup. It would be nice on its own. For me, it's probably going to be something that I wear when I'm like out mowing the grass or gardening, just because if there are like flakes of it, or if I don't rub in all of it, I don't really care. I would probably wear it under makeup more so than just on its own for that reason again. And I probably wouldn't wear this as much in the winter time just because I don't need a matte sunscreen. But in the summer, it's a great option. So it's a little tricky just because of the application woes. And my final rating on this, I'm so torn. Like the first part of this review, the first half was just like, oh, so glowing. The ingredient list is so great. But because it is so hard to apply in like a very smooth, consistent layer and get enough of it on without kind of running into the pilling issues, I do have to give it a lower rating. And I'm going to give it like a 6, but that's only because I just think that the application is one of the most important things. Like I could do without the skincare part because I do skincare on my own. Like I do that beforehand or at night. But if people are not gonna want to apply it, or if it's gonna pill off of them, that's just a huge downfall. So I can't give them points for their ingredient list if the application is not great. So want to love it, but don't love it that much. And last up, we have Max Mineral. This is SPF 45, 1.7 fluid ounces, and also retails for $34. So both of these are $34 and they're the same amount of product. I have done a review on this one. I've actually talked about it quite a few times. So if you're interested, I will link some of the videos above talking about this. This is the only mineral sunscreen that I have from them. And like I said, they do have an older version. So I'm not sure. I think that is still available on their website. I don't think it's available on Sephora. But if, I don't know, it might be discontinued. So be careful. This one is mineral, like I said. It's got 1.93% titanium dioxide and 19.24% zinc oxide. So very, very good percentages, very high percentages. There is no scent to this, none whatsoever. And I feel like with a lot of mineral sunscreens, but not all, they are pretty good about having them unfragranced and unscented. So that's, I think, a lot of the time because people in America that have sensitive skin tend to gravitate more toward mineral sunscreens, and scents can be very irritating on the skin. This one, for ingredients, they say that it has safflower oil, vitamin C, and vitamin E, and the vitamin C version of it is ascorbic acid. So interesting that they don't really make like more of a note of that, but I think for vitamin C, when it's in a sunscreen, sunscreens are basically doing the same thing as vitamin C. Not the same, but by limiting the amount of UV light that your skin gets, it's basically reducing the amount of pigmentation, the amount of photosensitivity on your skin. So it makes sense that they would put it in there. In today's climate, I'm definitely kind of intrigued that they don't call that out more, because I think it could be a really great marketing ploy for them. So that's just like the pessimistic Dana and me talking. It also says it has diamond powder, which I'm going to read from the website and tell you what it says. Okay, so from the website, this is what it says. Vanishing tint helps neutralize the look of redness and blends into most skin tones, while diamond powder delivers a natural-looking, radiant finish. I would say that that's pretty true, but here's the thing. I only put enough on my forehead, and I probably didn't even put as much as I normally put. When I put a lot more on, I get a little bit more, well, a lot more radiant of a finish. So that's something to consider. And for me, the finish is very dewy. This isn't really doing it justice, but if you look at some of my other videos while wearing it, you can see just kind of like how dewy it can be. But I think for the most part, it's probably going to give you kind of like a radiant, kind of natural finish. And as far as cast, there's no white cast from the zinc oxide, but it's the tint. The tint is, they say that it's supposed to be for most medium skin tones, and like, to me, I have pretty tan skin, and this doesn't seem like great for darker skin tones. It does rub in quite quickly, but I would say if you have a darker skin tone, this will get the zinc oxide cast out, but you would probably need like a bronzer or like your foundation on over top. So how would I wear this? I actually think this is a really good overall one. I think it's really great under makeup. It's good alone, especially for lighter to like kind of medium skin tones. And for oily skin, I would say this is probably better in the winter, not in the summer. The tint is the only thing. It's just not going to be universal, and I don't think that they should market it as that. But I do think it blends in pretty seamlessly, so you could cover it with makeup. And it does have a nice kind of like, honestly, it feels like skincare more than a normal sunscreen, so I would say layering is pretty good for makeup. So I kind of waver on this one too. I've given it kind of the not the most glowing rating in the past, but I do think it's a pretty solid choice for a lot of people. The only thing is, if you're going to spend $34, you might as well get something that just works perfectly for you. And I have found some other ones that are cheaper that work better. So for me, it's like a solid 7, and it kind of will go up or go down depending on things. So maybe if you have a lighter skin tone, the rating will go up. If you have a darker, go down, and your skin type. So if you have more oily or dry skin, that kind of differs too. But it's not going to be the first one that I recommend to people. So that's why I give it a 7. Okay, so to wrap things up, I think all 3 of these sunscreens are really pretty spectacular. I mean, my lowest rating was the 6, and I gave some pretty clear reasons why. I think it's just about the layering and kind of the application. But if you're somebody who really just needs a matte sunscreen, it's a very good option. It also has a high SPF 45, and like I said, that ingredient list is chef's kiss. But I think it's kind of clear that my 2 top choices are the Water Drench and then the Max Mineral. I think both of them are really great options, and I love that one is chemical, one is mineral, so it kind of appeases both worlds. But me personally, I'll be using both. They serve different purposes, and I kind of use them at different times of the year when my skin is different. And yeah, I think they're really, really spectacular, and there's something to be said for a higher end, like more luxury product. The fact that there's just no white cast for the Water Drench, it is not greasy. It's not reminiscent of those like drugstore kind of like old school sunscreens. I know you're paying quite a bit, but it is worth it. And especially if you are getting some skincare properties, which I never, ever, ever say about sunscreens usually, but I do think that these are kind of the exception to my own little rule about that. So highly recommend the Water Drench and the Max Mineral. Not as ringing of an endorsement for the Max Matte, but again, it might be the perfect one for you. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.